Less Traveled podcast. I'm your host, Hillary Heron, and today we have with us Binh Tran. Hi, Binh. Thank you so much for being here.
What's up, Hillary? Thank you for having me. I just want to say thank you for having me on the podcast today. It means a lot to me. I think you are a badass woman, and I love what you're doing with the podcast and the message that you're trying to share.
I appreciate that very much. You have been so supportive from the day I met you. I was like, you know what? He's one of my people.
I try.
Well, and thankfully you allowed me to have you in my life. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
So we're going to jump right in.
Let's do it.
All right. So you're a serial entrepreneur. So you don't really have like an exact title, or do you?
I don't think I have an exact title. I think I don't know, whatever my wife wants to do, I pretty much follow her. Like, she's the brain behind everything, and whatever she does, I just follow her, and it works. I think that it works.
Okay. Well, that's amazing. So right now you guys have a nail salon.
Yes.
And you've had multiple restaurants.
Yes.
But your background, your formal education is in film?
Yes, correct. So I do have a bachelor's degree in film, but when I did go to film school, like halfway through, I realized that there wasn't that much money in film and that you were going to have to grind to little to no money. So, I decided to finish the degree, but I didn't decide to pursue it afterwards. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you went to film school down south. Did you always, so you guys are from Fresno?
From Fresno, yes, we're from Fresno.
Did you always know you wanted to come back?
Not necessarily. At the time, I don't think we knew what we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I graduated college and we were kind of figuring it out ourselves. We were 23 at the time. And we just decided to move back home to figure ourselves out for a little bit. But then that's pretty much it. We ended up home.
So when we talk about a road less traveled, I mean, you didn't just end up home. Like, you guys moved to Vietnam, you opened businesses. Yes. Can you give us a little kind of high level road through your life?
Yeah. So born and raised in Fresno. From up until 19, we moved down. Actually, I'm sorry. Up until 19, we lived in Fresno. Then we moved down to Southern California for 4 years. At 23, we moved back to Fresno. And then in 2019, at the end of 2019, I think we were 26, 27 at the time. We decided to move to Vietnam for a year. And then from there, we decided to move back. And then this is how we ended up here. We've been back in Fresno ever since.
Amazing.
Yes.
And what took you to Vietnam?
I've always had a passion for Vietnam. So I went to Vietnam for the first time in 2017. Mm-hmm. And growing up as a first generation immigrant, first generation, like,
immigrant family.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So my parents came over here from Vietnam and they had us, and I was the first generation born in America. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really care about my culture at the time because growing up in the Central Valley, there are not too many Vietnamese people. So I didn't really care much about it. But when I went to Vietnam in 2017 for the very first time, I absolutely loved it. I felt like there was a piece of me that was missing that I had to go rediscover. And I always knew that I wanted to go back to Vietnam one day. So every single year after that, we decided to go back. And then when we decided to move to Vietnam, that's when we decided to
immerse yourself in it?
Yeah, exactly. Immerse yourself in Vietnam completely.
Have you guys been back since you moved back?
No, I haven't been back. So we moved back in 2020 during COVID, actually. Mm-hmm. And we've been trying to go back every single year, but you know what? The salon has been so busy, and we just had a baby. So it's kind of been hard to go back to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you ready to take baby with you?
I don't know. Traveling with a baby is way different. We flew to San Diego on a 1 hour flight, and it was quite the experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, I think she's going to be international.
Hopefully next year. Hopefully. Yeah.
Most definitely. So what led you to getting involved in the salon?
I don't know. Well, I'm going to be real. I'm be absolutely real.
So please don't lie.
I'll be absolutely real. So at the time, I was teaching English, online to kids in China while I was living in Vietnam, and I was making pretty decent money, but it wasn't anything crazy if you owned a business. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we didn't know exactly what to do when we would move back to America. So we decided to move back to America, and all we knew was to open up a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So before we opened up the nail salon, we actually looked at a couple locations to open up a restaurant. Mm-hmm. But we did the numbers on it, and at the time it didn't really make sense. And this is like when COVID like was still around and they weren't letting restaurants open. So we're just like, okay, this doesn't really make sense at the moment. So we kind of just put it off altogether. And then literally like 3 or 4 months go by, and then Tram, she just brought up the idea of like, let's revisit opening up a nail salon, because she thought about opening up a nail salon while we lived in Vietnam. So when we moved back, we kind of visited that too, but we visited briefly. So we tried to go more into like the restaurant route. So afterwards, she decided to, let's try to open up a nail salon. So we went around and looked for a couple spots, and literally the second spot that we looked at, she said, "This is it." And she signed me up, and I'm like, "Okay, let's do it."
She signed you up. You were like you were a willing participant.
That's all that I am good for, honestly. That's all that I'm good for.
No, you've done a lot of stuff. I mean, okay, so one of the things that I wanted to touch on is oftentimes the beauty industry, if you will, is perceived as female dominated.
Yeah.
And perhaps by number, that's a thing, but is that what you're finding? Or
like, what do you mean? Like,
I mean, are you seeing that? So when we talk about male, in this context, when we talk about male dominated, it is either by number, so by volume, more men than women, or by decision-making capacity. So fewer men, but they are in the decision-making roles. Yeah. So what are you seeing in the beauty industry?
In terms of what aspect, though?
Like
what do you mean?
So do you have an equal number of men and women?
Oh, no. Like, I get what you're saying now. No, I think it's going to be like 99.9% all females in the beauty industry. I mean, you'll see it more now. Like, you see college, like, football players like Caleb Williams and, Drake, they paint their nails, they do their nails and stuff like that. So it's becoming more of a trend for males to come in, but predominantly it's mostly female that come in and do their nails.
And you do a lot on social media and have for a while in a lot of different aspects, right? So for the businesses, and then for your own personal, and then in that aspect, if you've gone and tried to get like promotions or sponsorships or partnerships, are you finding that the people that you're working with in that aspect are male or female, or do you even know, because a lot of it's digital?
Oh, well, what do you mean? Like the people that I'm working with, like
who are like, yes, I'll give you this sponsorship. Do you find that the people you're working with are male or female?
Yeah, so the people that we're working with, it's mostly like female, like female owned like companies.
Okay,
and
cool.
I think that it kind of stays in that realm of the people that we do choose to work with, because it is such a predominantly, what do you say, predominantly ran female business.
Do you feel like working with your wife has given you more ability to communicate effectively there?
I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think our dynamic is pretty weird and healthy at the same time. I don't really know how to explain it. So she pretty much handles everything in the background, and I pretty much look like I'm doing everything in the front, but I'm actually not really doing anything. I'm pretty much just talking shit the whole time. Like, honestly, I'm just talking shit the whole time, and she's doing everything in the background, and she just allows me to be myself, and then she just makes every single person is in order. So like all the employees are in order, all the customers are in order, and she always makes sure that everything is just smooth.
And it takes both of those, right? It takes the yin and the yang.
Exactly. And I think honestly, in business, when you do work with your partner, there can only be one boss. And I learned this in our first business, that she's so much better at doing everything. So for me, I have no problem saying, hey, you know what? You're the boss. You take care of everything, and whatever you need me for, I'll do it. And I think that's how we have a pretty healthy balance in our work relationship.
That is a different perspective than you hear from most men, though. Oftentimes they are, I'm man, hear me roar. And it can be kind of weird. So you have a totally different approach to it, and that's really worked out well for you. And I think that that's fantastic. Was it always that way, or was it something that you kind of had to learn? I
think it was always that way, because for me personally, I don't really like, for me, if you watch like my Instagram videos and stuff, I'm always like free spirit and chill. And I'm like that the majority of the time. And I don't really like telling people to do things. Like, hey, you need to do this, or this is going to happen. Or I don't really like being like stern with people, which in business you have to,
Yeah.
you have to be cutthroat sometimes. But I don't like being that person,
Structured.
Yeah.
Cutthroat,
But
structured.
Tram, she's okay with being that person. If people don't like her, that's fine. But for some reason, they still end up liking her, even though she disciplines them.
People like boundaries. Don't tell them. Don't tell them, but they do.
So for me personally, I don't like being that person. So I don't have no issue taking a back seat to that. But when I have to, I'll definitely step up and do the best that I can. But for the most part, I don't have to. So I leave it all to Tram.
Well, and working with your spouse or working with family is really, really hard. How do you guys balance that? I mean, it is hard any way you slice it, even if you get along all the time.
Yeah.
Like there is a point where you're like, I don't even want to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
How do you guys work that out?
I don't know. I think working with like your family is really difficult because sometimes the boundaries do get crossed and sometimes you take work home and you don't really know how to shut it off. And I think that's something that we're still trying to figure out. I don't think that we're probably ever going to figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think we're going to be able to figure it out. I just think that's something that as an entrepreneur, as somebody in business and as a person of leadership, you're always going to have to struggle with having that, work-life, personal balance because I don't think you're ever going to be able to shut it off. And that's just something that you're going to have to accept. And I've accepted it, Tram accepted it, and then we're all good with that.
So that's good. That is a different perspective too, because some people are like, oh no, you got to turn the light switch off.
It's hard.
Especially if you're passionate about your business or you're, heavily emotionally invested in it. It's really, really difficult.
It's hard. I don't think you can shut it off. I saw an interview with Elon Musk and he talked about like he's fully immersed in everything that he does and he sleeps at his factory. He does everything 100%. So I don't think if you are like heavily invested into your business, I don't think you can ever truly shut it off.
You just have to be able to disconnect a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Like, when you go to the zoo.
Yeah.
Like, you can maybe talk about it, but you don't want to be like sitting down having a meeting kind of deal.
Exactly. 100%.
Okay. So you're a very passionate person, and that is something that I have always respected about you. But how do you recharge for yourself?
It's crazy because online, I look like an extrovert, a complete extrovert. And I'm nervous right now. So like for me, I'm trying to like get all hype and energetic, but I'm not right now. So like online, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like on my content, I know exactly what I'm doing. I script it out. I don't want to say script it out because it's I don't want to say it's like fake, but like I know exactly what I'm doing. So it's easier for me to like perform in a way. But when I'm like on the outside and just being like this, I'm pretty much mellow and chill the whole time. So like what I do to recharge is I just get away from everybody and I just listen to some music. I listen to NF, I listen to Joyner Lucas, and I listen to Christian music. And I listen to that, and then I get lost for like a day or 2 days, and I come back, put all my energy into the world, and get burned out again.
Yeah. And so then you got to like unplug and go take your time. One of the things recently that you did was an ultra marathon.
Yeah, I did an ultra marathon.
Tell us about that, because that's not something very many people can accomplish.
Yeah, that was intense. So I did 100 miles. I did a 100-mile ultra marathon.
I haven't run 1 mile. I can't even tell you when the last time was.
You can do it.
Go on.
You can do a marathon. I bet you can do a marathon. Yeah, so I did a 100-mile ultra marathon 2 weeks ago, the Silver Moon race here in Reedley. It was a great race. It was really difficult mentally, physically. I think it was more difficult mentally than it was physically. And that's why I do participate in these kind of like endurance like races, only because it helps me mentally think better and it opens up like chambers in my mind that can help me think clearly and push myself to a whole nother level. So that's why I do that. And never again.
No, thank you.
Never again.
But in, being an entrepreneur and, so being a serial entrepreneur, and I have a little bit in this in myself where I'm like, how hard could it be? We could just do this or do that. It's really important to have those things that are hobbies, or even if they're not hobbies, if there's like side businesses that help you regarner your energy. Does running, it seems like it would make you very tired, but does it re-energize you?
It's kind of weird because I started running back in 2020 after going through like a really dark time in my life. So like I started running to help me like motivate myself, to get myself back into like the best version of myself. So it's crazy because like I don't run or go to the gym for like physical fitness, yeah, that comes as a byproduct. But like when I put my shoes on and go run, it's solely for the like purpose of me trying to like work on my mental capacity and try to be like a healthy person, because naturally, honestly, I'm a pretty depressing person. And if you ask Tram, like that's just the truth. So running and like working out, it helps me get out of that rut and helps me stay in a very positive or semi-positive mindset.
Get your endorphins, your serotonin, get that stuff pumping.
Exactly. But sometimes it can be a little unhealthy, like doing excessive amounts of marathons and doing an ultra marathon. I don't think like it's like the best thing for my mental capacity sometimes, but like sometimes I have to pump the brakes on it and tell myself, hey, you know what, like you don't have to do this like that, because you're driving yourself into a wall.
I mean, so it's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I have a question about mental health.
Yeah.
Sorry, skip that last part. When you're done with a marathon, or when you go through like a rash of pushing yourself really hard, do you have like a moment of dip? Do you have a fallout where you get really down?
After the marathon?
After the marathon, or after like running, like let's say you run a lot every day for like a week and then you skip 2 days.
So I think when I run like a marathon, 26.2 miles, there's at like mile 22, you're always hitting like this wall of where your body and your mind disconnects, and you feel like you can't go anymore. Like you're trying to tell your body to go, but it just doesn't respond anymore. So you're literally using every single ounce of energy to keep on going. And those are the parts where you feel extremely, extremely low. And those are the parts where I live for, where I'm like, you know, I love this. I hate it at that moment, but right after you're done with it, you're like, man, I was able to like come out of that and be good. And
to overcome it.
Exactly. So that's one feeling that why I choose to do those things. And it's a really low moment. It's a really low moment when you run those races. And I felt that during this 100 mile. I felt like 3 times during the 100 mile ultra marathon where I had like 3 mental breakdowns where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I at mile 30, I was like, oh, damn, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. And knowing you have 70 more miles to go, 70 more miles to run, I was like, I don't want to do this. But I just, one foot in front of the other, got to mile 70, I was done. I was going to give up. But somehow, some way, you know, when you come face to face with those low moments, you just try to find your way back up. And we finished.
So the run is like a little bit of a metaphor for your life.
Exactly.
So when you have those low moments, it's just one foot in front of the other. And sometimes you just need to take all of your energy to take that next step.
Yeah. And I honestly feel like when you do these hard shit in life, when you do hard shit in life, the stuff that you deal with on the daily, you're all good. So like when I'm dealing with stressful things in my marriage, in business, at work, or anything that I'm dealing with my friends, I don't really put it on a very high pedestal, or I don't really freak out anymore, because what I'm dealing with at those moments, I'm able to overcome. So I put things in the proper perspective. I look at it for what it is, and I say, you know what, we can work our way through this. Even when you're dealing with something super difficult, even in business, when you're dealing with something very difficult, things are out of your control and things are going completely wrong, you can look at it for what it is and say, you know, I'm not going to freak out. You know, I got out of that, so I'm going to be able to get out of this. And for the most part, it ends up being all good.
It's one of those, but did you die situations?
Exactly.
The world isn't going to stop turning. So I need to find like a constructive way to deal with this. Have you always been that way, or was that something you learned as you freaked out once in a while?
No, so like for me, honestly, I used to be so lazy, and I used to be like a loser to the point where like I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to like express myself. I didn't even know how to think properly. I didn't know how to make proper decisions. And doing all these things has helped me build my confidence, helped me build my, communication skills and how I interact with people on a daily basis. So doing all this stuff is definitely beneficial to me, and it has helped me tremendously in my like personal life.
So there's a lot of personal growth that has come through this. And then on the other side of the same coin, I guess, have you had anybody who has been integral in driving you forward? Any sort of mentors or peer mentors?
Honestly, it's kind of, it sounds kind of depressing, kind of weird, but like, it's kind of lonely, honestly. I don't really have mentors. I don't have people in my life that like pour into me and tell me, hey, you know what, you can do this and you can do that. Because I'm pretty sure you feel the same way in a sense, where like when you think a certain type of way and you have a vision for what you want to do for your life, nobody can really resonate with that. You know what I mean? And I try to like have conversation with people and do things with people, but they don't have this, they can't see the vision that I have. So in a way, it ends up, you know, becoming a distant relationship with one another. And I find myself being kind of lonely. I feel like the only person that truly understands like what I want to do and the vision that I have is like my wife. And she's totally supportive and she's always on board. And I feel like with her, me and her, we're the only two people that can actually vibe and actually pour into each other where it's actually going somewhere and beneficial.
It's incredible to have somebody like that. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that type of supportive relationship. But do you guys get sick of each other?
It's a surprise.
I have to ask.
No.
My husband and I don't work together and we get sick of each other.
Honestly, I don't think we get sick and tired of each other. Honestly, she's like my best friend. And we talk 24 hours, 24/7. We're always texting each other and we're always with each other 100% of the time. And I think like, obviously we love each other, but we like each other too. So I think that helps with the whole dynamic of our relationship and whole dynamic of our work relationship, our family relationship and everything else.
That's super important.
Yeah.
And you know, when you don't love each other, at least you like each other.
Exactly.
I always tell like my brother, who he's not married yet, but when we talk about stuff like this, it's you need not really the shoulds, but if you're going to be with somebody that you understand that you can fall in love with over and over and over again, because whatever it is about life or emotions or whatever, it's not always great. You have to develop tools and tenacity and all those things. Does Tram, like, is she that person for you? Like
100%.
When you're not able to put one foot in front of the other?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and she knows, I think, because I get into these like depressing moments in my life where it happens weekly where I just go through this rut where I'm just kind of feeling sad, feeling depressed, and I don't act the happiest.
Yeah.
So she knows that. And so she helps me pick up the slack, you know, if I'm slacking off at work a little bit because I'm feeling a little bit down. So she steps in, or if I'm, you know, not able to be the best version of myself for like our daughter, she steps in, and she steps in little ways where I feel like she doesn't even notice that I notice, but I definitely notice. So she's not a real big motivational speaker. And I'm not the type of person where I want a motivational speaker or somebody to hype me up and be like, yo, Ben, you got this. You're good. I'm the type of person where just leave me alone. When I'm like, leave me alone. I'm gonna listen to some music. I'm gonna chill out. When I recover, I'll come back and I'll feel good. You know, I don't need somebody in my ear telling me. But like, I appreciate her always like doing stuff in the background when nobody's watching, but I'm paying attention. That helps me out tremendously.
Have you taken your love languages test?
No, I haven't actually.
You should take it.
I think I will.
Sounds like acts of service is your love language.
Think so?
Yeah, it's my love language. Like, don't tell me you love me. First of all, don't touch me.
Yeah, 100%.
But please do the laundry when I'm not expecting it. Like, that's the best for me.
Exactly.
That's amazing. What's next?
I don't know. So I have a big heart for Vietnam. Like Vietnam, I have a complete big heart for Vietnam. So I want to just be planted, rooted somewhere, somehow in Vietnam. That's why I kind of like made my Instagram like targeted to the Vietnamese market, because I wanted to make content and material that, you know, touches to that market. And that's why I decided to like make my Instagram for Vietnam. So maybe some businesses in Vietnam one day, who knows? But I definitely want to be able to spend half my year in Vietnam, hanging out on the beaches, drinking Vietnamese coffee or anything in that aspect.
Isn't that like crack?
It pretty much is. It pretty much is crack. It's so strong. It is super strong, but I love it.
So maybe like a place in Vietnam, like maybe I'll come visit
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I encourage this behavior.
We actually talked about getting a place in Vietnam. So if you are ever in Vietnam, we'll definitely take you around.
My mom's been and she really, really likes it.
It's amazing.
Is there a specific part, or have you guys visited a lot of the country? Or
Yeah, so my wife, she's from the middle of Vietnam. The city's called Da Nang, and I love that city. We actually lived in that city while we lived in Vietnam, and it's a beach coastal town, and it's like paradise, honestly. And it's only an hour flight from Saigon, which is the next. It's like the LA of Vietnam, and then it's an hour to Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam, and it's amazing. You should definitely go.
I definitely want to. Definitely want to.
Should go.
What is what's next on your agenda? A business, a trip?
I don't know. Right now, I think we're just kind of enjoying this season of our life, not doing as much. Like I'm not really making that much content for like our nail salon right now because I'm kind of enjoying being a dad. Because last year we went crazy. Like we went crazy with like content. We went crazy with business, scaling the business, growing the business, and kind of got burned out in a way, honestly. So like this year we're kind of taking a step back, enjoying my daughter for a season. And when I feel healthy, I'm going to come back and make more content and do more stuff. So that's where I'm at personally. I believe that I'm in a season of rest right now. And
it's important that you recognize that, like having that piece of self-awareness isn't something that everybody has. Have you, how do I phrase this? Not like, I'll say it in a funny way. This is what I would say if there were no microphones.
No, you're good.
Have you sought professional help for this? Or is this something that you've just discovered on your own?
I've never sought professional help. I'm not opposed to it, but this is kind of how I discovered everything on my own.
It's really not something that people are aware of. A lot of people will just push themselves until their body won't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So to discover like for yourself that you need rest and stuff isn't always something that people do.
But what's crazy, I didn't even realize I was tired until I stopped. Like even when I was going through it, I didn't even feel burned out. Like I felt burned out. I felt tired. But when I was going through it, I said, I can still do more. But I literally took like 2 weeks off. I took a step back for 2 weeks and stopped doing stuff. And I'm like, damn, I'm tired. Like I'm exhausted. And like, I tried to go back and being the same person that I was or try to put the same amount of output that I did. But nothing was coming out and everything just felt forced and I just wasn't feeling myself. And it happened with like at work. It happened with like going to the gym. It happened with running too. And I'm like, yo, something is up. And I needed to just take a step back for myself and recalibrate. And I'm still trying to figure it out right now, but hopefully I can figure it out soon because I'm ready to get back into the grind.
As a person who has struggled with mental health since my youth, I will say that there is no solution, right? There is, you learn yourself a little bit more. You learn what you can handle and what you can tolerate. And that opens the doors for you to be your most productive self, to know, hey, I need a break, or I'm not showing up as the best dad.
Yeah.
You should enjoy being a dad.
Yeah.
Like, why is that not okay?
I struggled. I think I struggled it before having like my daughter, where I had this idea that, you're a man, you got to grind, you got to hustle, you got to do this. You're not allowed to feel a certain type of way, but I'm always feeling some type of way. I'm always feeling emotional, but I've learned that feeling emotional is a great thing because it helps as a catalyst to get shit done, get stuff done. But there's also a negative side to it where it just completely takes everything over in your life where you feel like you're crippled and not able to do anything sometimes. And that's what I had to accept in my life where it's like, okay, it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to not do anything. It's okay to have a season of rest. It's okay to not know things sometime and stop. That way you're able to recharge and work towards becoming a better version of yourself. It's
important. It's nearly impossible sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have to use all of your energy just to get to the next step.
For sure.
I have days like that. I'm not getting out of bed. Sorry. And I have times where I'll have friends reach out and be like, hey, you okay? Are you just hibernating? Or like, do I need to call a doctor? So
I totally feel that.
It's important to have people around that, normalize it. Yeah. It's normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do to survive.
Exactly.
And know that you have support in places maybe you didn't think you did.
For sure. 100%.
So we'll wrap it up pretty quick here, but what is a piece of advice that you would give to anybody listening, in respect either to taking a road less traveled because you guys have been all over the place, or even if you want to make it industry specific or whatever feels right.
All right. So the piece of advice that I want to share with everybody is just to always be yourself. I think a lot of people are scared to be themselves. Like, for me, if you watch like my content that I make on social media, I'm always myself. And I cuss, I talk a lot of shit. Honestly, I talk a lot of shit, and not in a negative way, but I talk a lot of shit and I have fun, and I'm just open and honest with my feelings and my emotions. And at first when I did that, I was very nervous how people would perceive me. You know, I think they would judge me because before I used to always try to carry myself professional and speak well and not say things in a way where, you know, it comes off, you know, how it shouldn't be.
Is there a culture aspect to that too?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. But now I don't care anymore. I just say and do whatever I want. And what I've learned when you're able to do that, you're able to build more real relationships. You're able to have people like you for actually you instead of actually people liking you for who they think you are, you know? And from there, you're able to like open up doors with other people and have conversations with them like you know what I mean? Just being myself has allowed me to meet people like you, which is awesome. So my advice to everybody is just be yourself. You'll find more peace with yourself. And honestly, nobody really cares if you know, you are a certain type of way or not. And they're more accepting than you actually think.
And you're thinking more about what they think of you than they're thinking about what they think of you.
And that's the 100% the truth.
Okay, last question. What is a book that has inspired you, or are there?
Yeah, I read this book like 5 times. This is the book that changed my life. In 2019, I read David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me book. And that book changed my life completely. He basically touches on the subject. If you're completely a broken individual that has like a background of just a family background that's just all messed up, like you can work your way out of that if you just put your head down and work hard. And that's the book that actually changed my life.
I'm gonna have to check that book out.
Check it out. I definitely recommend it.
What was it called again?
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Okay, I like it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
So much appreciate it.
Thank you, Hillary. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you.
A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their stories, wisdom, and breaking down barriers with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Your support means the world to me and helps spread the word about the amazing women paving the road less traveled in male-dominated industries. If you have suggestions for a future guest or topic you'd like me to explore, please reach out on social media. I'd love to hear from you. Follow me on your favorite social platform for updates and behind the scenes. Keep pushing boundaries, challenging norms, and lifting each other up.